It's another good day here at the Great Debaters Contest. Welcome to the show. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Nyombok.
And today's debate focuses on whether voting should be made compulsory to people who have attained the voting age.
Proposing the motion, we have Precious Blood Riruta, who have said to their opponents they are here to roar. As for the opposers, we have St. George's Girls High School, who have said that they are back and they will take back the debate home.
The motion this week is: voting should be made compulsory for all who have attained the voting age. Proposing the motion, Precious Blood Riruta. Opposing the motion, St. George's Girls Secondary School.
Each contestant has 3 minutes to make their submissions. The audience also gets a chance to put their questions to each team. Each side will have an additional 1 minute to make a final statement. The judge's decision is final. The winning school will get an ICT chill-out zone with a widescreen TV, computers, webcam, and internet connection. The teacher from the winning school gets 100,000 shillings courtesy of Chase Bank. The winning students each get a laptop and modem courtesy of Safaricom, a gift hamper from Hako, and a gift hamper from mimi.co.ke. And together they all win the title, The Great Debaters. May the best school win!
Proposer number 1, you have 3 minutes, you may begin.
Lyndon B. Johnson once said that a man without a vote is a man without protection. Jedida Rakwar, Precious Blood Riruta Secondary School. So what is voting? Voting is a formal expression of your indication of between two candidates or two causes. Primarily, the main purpose of voting is to put into position and power leaders who are able to make decisions for the whole country and ensure that there is development in the country. We as Precious Blood believe that the voting should be made compulsory for each and every person who has attained the voting age. That is, voting should be made a mandatory action for these people. Why should we say so? The democracy of each and every country in this world is dependent on the activation of its citizens in the decisions that the government makes. And voting is the basic foundation for this democracy. People say that you should not ask the nation what they should do for you, but rather you should ask yourself, what should you do for your nation? When voting is made mandatory for people who have attained the voting age, they are able to be involved in the decisions that the government makes. Mostly, you usually find that countries in which voting is not compulsory, they're always arguing, oh, the government should do this, the government should do that. When you make voting compulsory, you're bringing everyone together and they're going to make a decision. And therefore, we won't waste time on skirmishes between the government and the people, saying what the government ought to do and what the government ought not to do. This time that we waste arguing with each other, 1 minute this group is saying this, the other minute that group is saying that, we can use that time to bring our minds together, our ideas together, and bring development to various countries. Countries that have brought about compulsory voting include Singapore, there's Canada, and also Bolivia. If you compare these countries to countries that do not have compulsory voting, you find that their gross domestic product is higher, their rate of development is higher. I will give a very good example of the Bolivians. These people elected Evo Morales as their president in 2005. This man has brought change in that country. Their economy has become a pluri-economy, whereby there's free education and free healthcare for each and every individual in that country. Their investments have drastically increased. And we have the situation whereby the trade policies that this president has put in have been able to bring the country to development. So I ask myself, if each and every country in this world would apply compulsory voting, where would we be as the world, as the nation? Wouldn't have cases of developing countries and underdeveloped countries. Moreover, you'll have to agree with me that when we spend more time telling people about strategies that we've set out. We won't waste time during political rallies telling them about, oh, go and turn up in masses. We can put our political rallies into better development, Africans, for example, and tell people about our plans and our strategies instead of telling them to go out and vote. And lastly, one American said that a political system with a universal right to vote, but with only a few fraction of that citizenship going to vote, is merely a hollow sense of term of that meaning. So think about it.
First opposer, you have 3 minutes for your opening remarks.
From the St. George's Girls High School, my name is Michelle Ugutu, and I am here to oppose this motion that my fellow opponent has stated. First of all, we need to understand, democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Why should we force people to do something, yet they're the ones who are supposed to decide what they want to do and who they want to choose and whether they want to choose the person or not? First of all, you gave us the example of USA. Yes, they said what they said, but let us check. Does the USA government force people to go and vote? Of course not. But you know what? They're developed, exactly. Then, again, you're the one who told us that we are put in that position to vote so that the leaders can, the people can choose the leaders they want who will bring development. Fine, but just think of this. When people do not have the knowledge of that the political position in the society, and you force them to go and vote, yet they know nothing completely about politics. This will lead to wrong decision making, and they might end up choosing even the wrong leaders that will not bring that development. People might end up just following the crowd because you know what the government said, let's go and vote. So what? I'll vote as long as what the government said, but they won't vote really interested in whether or not that leader will help them or not. Now, on to my first point. Instead of the government forcing people to vote, they should actually bring education to the people. First of all, we need to understand, why are we voting? How is our voting important to us? After bringing that education to the people, then the people will know why they're voting, and they will be able to even choose the people that they're voting for. Let's give an example. All the time, if we have ever noted, our country always brings education to the people before votes. And we see that there are normally so many turnouts in some regions. For example, in the central, people normally come up a lot because they know why my vote counts. This is my vote. And giving you an example of North Korea, he was the only presidential aspirant by name Kim Jong-un. He made voting compulsory, yet he was the only presidential aspirant. This one is actually leading to dictatorship. Democracy actually is supposed to, we were given brains, people. Judges, come on, tell me this. Would you be happy to be forced to go and vote? Weren't you given a mind of your own to decide, I want to vote, I do not want to vote? So please, do not force us as if we are cows, we do not know what we are doing or where we are going. For us to start being forced, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. Come on, people, we have the common sense. We have the right to make our own decisions. The country itself gives us the right. So come on, people, join me. We are people of one mind. We have our 5 common sense. We can use them without people telling us, use your common sense.
Rebuttal time now, and we'll hear from the proposing team. You have 3 minutes.
Daisy Ndita, Precious Blood Riruta. First of all, the opposer said that the citizens have freedom to vote. I'd like to inform you that freedom comes with responsibility. And within the same freedom is why you will choose the right leaders. You might have the freedom not to choose, but aren't you the same Kenyans, aren't you the same Africans that go argue that the government is doing nothing about education, yet you're not voting for the right leaders to give you education? You're giving a platform for people in power to continue being people like Mugabe who continue ruling, and they're not even bringing any development. You're not giving an opportunity for new leaders to come about. another point. You're comparing USA and saying that you're comparing USA to other countries. You can't compare USA to Africa. USA gained independence long time ago. They have stabilized the political sector. You can't compare the policies that USA has to other countries. And I'll move on to another point. When you have compulsory voting, it promotes democracy. As my opponent said, democracy is a government of the people, by the people, to the people. And by promoting democracy, it is a right for every citizen in their country to actually vote. Because how do you expect the government to know the things that you need? It is you to vote for the right leaders, and those right leaders to implement what you want them to implement. There's also diversity. When you have the same leaders in power, that's how we get dictators. People who don't want to give power to other people. How will the youth who are told to be the future leaders of tomorrow exercise their leading qualities? I'll be there, a youth, but then because there are other better leaders and the other people who want to stay in power, I will not get an opportunity to represent the views of my fellow youth and other Africans who want to move on, and other members of the world who want to move on as a country and as a world. Voting is also an ethical obligation. It ensures renewal of commitment of these leaders. Every time before elections, there are campaigns. These leaders usually give you promises. I will give you education. I will make the roads better. How many leaders in Africa, how many leaders in the world have implemented this? You can count. How many? They don't even reach 100, I am so sure. Then I'd like to leave you with a quote. I'd like to give you a quote. The right to vote is only meaningful when you use it. Why should you be given a right to vote then? It's equally good to say we just sit and whoever wants to lead the country or whoever wants to lead the world to take control. It will not work. Where are we heading? Nowhere. I'd also like to add that voting is a primary rule, and when you make it secondary, it's making it optional. There are definitely going to be loopholes, and when there are these loopholes, the only people who will fill these holes are corrupt leaders. Do you want corrupt leaders? I don't think so. And I will give you an example of Bolivia. There is nowhere else in the country you will get a president associating himself with poor people in the streets who are suffering and relating to their problems without security. Think about it.
Opponents, you may give your rebuttal. You also have 3 minutes.
I am Mary Mwangi from the St. George's Girls Secondary School, Nairobi. And I am here to oppose the motion that has been stated by our proposers. First and foremost, I would like to refute my proposers by asking them, how will making me a citizen vote? How will it influence my leaders? How will it make sure that they come back and fulfill their promises? Ask yourself, how? Second of all, how does making me vote, how does forcing me to vote promote democracy? I do not understand. For I believe that democracy is for the people, by the people. We are the ones who make the decisions. If I am forced to make a decision, how is that responding to my freedoms and my rights? Well, I leave that to you to answer. Now, take this scenario. Elections take a lot of money. I believe last year, our country had general elections. Can you imagine how much money the government uses? Have you ever tried to ask yourself, let me ask the proposers, do you have a clue as to how much money the government uses? Do you have the slightest clue? Let me give you facts. In the year 2007 and 2008, the government used approximately 8 billion shillings to provide for the elections, to provide for the materials for the election. I'll shock you even further by telling you, in the year 2013, the government used 24 billion shillings to be able to cater for the elections. Let me ask you, have we no better things to do with that money? Have we no better things? People are crying, there are no facilities. Doctors and teachers are going for strikes. Are there no better facilities? Let me ask you something. Don't you think we can do something with this money? Don't you think we can do something with this money? Ask your neighbor. Don't you think we can? You imagine that alone, with us being free, we have the freedom to vote. 24 billion was used. What if we were all forced to vote? Come on, imagine the number doubling. Our economy is going down. We are competing against the dollar, and yet we are losing. Our economy deteriorates every single day. What if we increase? What if we make it compulsory now? What money will there be there? Will there be any money for us to use on our resources? How will we be able to create the social amenities for these people, for the people of our nation? I believe that inflation will come about. There will be fluctuation in the market. And I believe we have all seen the effects of inflation. The prices of food going up. Basic commodities for the Africans, for the Kenyans. I leave it all to you to decide. Thank you.
May we have 2 questions for the proposers?
My name is Rajab Suleiman Hakim from Ofafa Jericho High School, and my question is to the proposers. We, as the citizens of Kenya, if we are forced to elect our leaders through a compulsory vote, is it an assurance that we as the citizens will be involved in decisions that will affect us? Because just as the opposers have said, the economy is deteriorating. The money we spent during the elections, who will pay for the money?
I'm Franklin Agina from Starehe Boys Center. My question goes to the proposers. What should minority groups like Jehovah's Witnesses do because their religion does not allow them to participate in elections?
My name is Badil Madrube from Loreto High School, Limuru. My question is to the opposers. Let's take this scenario. It's the voting day. Being the generation that we are, so full of laxity and adrenaline, so I really don't feel like voting. I'll just sleep in, stay at home. So what happens? The vote turnout is 1%. Can we have a president after vote turnout of 1%? So will you go back to re-election again?
I'm Joseph Kamau from Olympic. I would like to ask, don't you think that if voting was made mandatory, don't you think that a person will think about it really critically before making the choice, and the choice will be right?
I invite the 3rd speaker from the proposing side.
Sharon Mudhoni, Precious Blood Riruta. I will start by answering the questions asked. To the question about the Jehovah's Witness participating in the election, if they are benefactors of a government, I do not see why they should not make decisions for their own good. They should participate in this process, and even if their religion forbids them from doing this, they shall approve of policies made from governments which have been put in place by people who have voted in a compulsory system. Moreover, question about involvement of the citizens in making decisions. I mean, compulsory election is basically involving the citizen. That's exactly what you're advocating for here. It's exactly what we're saying. We should be involved. You should be involved, even if it means compelling you to be involved, because they need that. We need that voice. Timid as it is, we need it. The government needs to hear it. The previous speaker, I would like to kindly contradict your point by saying, we cannot sacrifice democracy at the altar of cost. What is cost? What is cost? Shall we have political instability because of a disgruntled public, just because we don't want to spend that extra coin on compulsory election? Moreover, if the masses elect, the masses shall remove. This is to answer the point whereby it was claimed that we cannot remove leaders whom we have compulsorily elected. And I would also like to bring to your attention the fact that electing our own leaders, especially in a compulsory way, gives us political legitimacy. I will feel that I own the government if I have voted for that government. It will not only reflect the views of those who are liberated enough, if I may say so, to vote without compulsion. It will also reflect my view as a person who may have sat at home and used this day as a holiday when I was supposed to be voting. Moreover, compulsory voting prevents disenfranchisement of the socially disadvantaged. This is because we can take to task employers who cannot give the employees the time of day to go and vote. We can put in place legislation to ensure that voting is compulsory and that the voice of every single person is heard. And I would like to actually present an interesting fact. As of August 2013, 22 countries had actually adopted the system of compulsory voting. So compulsory voting is actually working. Look at Australia, exponential growth of economy. Look at Canada, they have compulsory voting. These people enjoy their governments because they feel politically legitimate. I rest my case.
May we have the third speaker from the opposing side?
I am Efiloy Sekinyi from the St. George's Girls Secondary School. I would like to answer Marube from Loreto Limuru. Your question, I have the direct answer to it. One of our leaders, one of our female leaders, known as Martha Karua, said, there is no point to waste billions holding elections when the executive already has settled somebody who will eventually win. So why would you vote? And yet, they already know who is going to take it. Why? You will vote. Secondly, I would like to answer my opponent from the other side, from Olympic High School. Voting should not be made compulsory to anybody. That is why I am standing here. And I will strongly affirm to the fact that this is infringing on people's rights. Why would I infringe on your rights, Madam Buka? Why? You are a citizen like me. So why should I force you to walk there helter-skelter? I am going to vote for a leader who will guarantee me benefits that I have never received. Judge Major, have you? No. Fine, let me move on to my points. With the proposers, I agree to disagree. Yes, let there be compulsory voting, but it will only improve the low turnout, but will not affect the problem, the root problem, what people actually have about politics. Will it? I am going to vote yes. But people here, what we are trying to focus on is educating their people. There are solutions, like educating the people in secondary level, history and government. You can start from there. We learn about voting. Why should we not continue teaching the students the benefits that they acquire, the merits and demerits that they are going to receive once they vote? Or rather, how about educating the public on how politics affects them? Judge Shege, have you been educated? Have you? Well, fine. Yes, I have agreed to disagree. But my question is, if we allow it, it will only, yes, improve the low turnout. In essence, it's just relieving the side effects without curing the disease. People, my people, it is about you and I. We need a government. We need a nation that is strong. Thank you.
Final submissions by a speaker from the proposing side.
You know, as I stand on this stage, I am tempted to say, the Lord has delivered you into my hands, because she has just said we need a strong government. How on earth are we going to get a strong government if you do not decide for it? How are we going to get a strong government if you sit down at home and watch TV the whole day? My people, we are faced with decisions every day of our lives. We have to take responsibility. Voting is one such responsibility. And shirking from such a responsibility is just too costly a price to pay. We cannot afford. That's how we end up with weak governments, by the way. We end up with weak governments because we have decided that we shall decide to stay at home and not vote. So let's introduce compulsory voting, my people. Let us bring to task these people who display such political apathy, these people who are taking us back to the legendary Egypt, these people who do not want us to move. People, let us advocate for compulsory voting. Thank you.
Member from the opposing team to make a final submission, please.
Yes, she has supported us by saying you decide, as in you decide. As a citizen, I mean, you are on our side. Why should you make it compulsory and yet you're saying you decide? Decide. I mean, it is there. It's a sin. I decide. That means they are saying that it will not be made compulsory. Forceful measures. It is you to decide. You've decided. Fine. In the world stand. If the world stands, stand out. If the world stand out, outstand. If the world outstands, be the standard. We can only be the standard by not being forced to do things that we are against. 80% of the people avoid thinking. 15% think that they are thinking. And only 5% think actively and productively to control the mass. We all ought to fall in the 5%. We should not let anybody infringe on our rights. I rest my case. We are not meant to be forced to vote.
I am not impressed is a sentence that can't find room in this debate. So I'm really impressed, in other words. I know this is a tense moment for the entire house, but what's got to be done has to be done. So Jedida, very catchy introduction. That's Precious Blood. Very catchy introduction. You're simply good. However, check on your time. When the bell goes, the second time you should have been done. Daisy, good cross-examination, good mastery of language, and coherency of argument as well. You also make a very strong second speaker. Sharon, very good speaker as well. Very safe way to tackle your questions, cross-examined as well. Good use of time, and also good ending remarks. That was commendable, and I commend you, Tim.
Michelle, very good, a very composed young lady. However, when the bell rang, you should have stopped. And you had many points at which you could have ended the debate without belaboring the point. When it's something good, like a good movie, and the resolution, the climax of the movie has been shown, it's time to end. You don't go on and on and on. Mary, nice to see you again. You have grown as a debater. Very good use of statistics, I loved that, and your presentation was very thought-provoking. Effie, again, you connected with us, and I love the fact that you're using your strength, which is a smile, because that helps you connect with the audience really, really well. Just one comment. I think I have noticed, and not just in this debate, but in others, that you're using the sentence connector, moreover, moreover, moreover. And I can almost start the next sentence for you. At some point, I think one of you did it, and I laughed. I think there are more connectors than moreover. All the best to the two teams.
My heart is actually racing before I can even. My heart is really racing. To vote or not to vote, that is the question. It reminds me of Shakespeare, to be or not to be. That is the question. St. George's, Precious Blood, I'm spoiled for choice. The teams are good. Both of you are good. Thank you.
Precious Blood Riruta, 72.8%. Give them a round of applause, please. St. George's Girls Secondary, 72.2%.
I think when the margins are that small, the only thing we can do is give both teams a big hand for that very nice debate. We hope to see both teams in the nationals. Who knows, maybe we'll see both of them there. But from us here at the Great Debaters Contest, it's goodbye till next time. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Nyombok.
The winning school will get an ICT chill-out zone with a widescreen TV, computers, webcam, and internet connection. The teacher from the winning school gets 100,000 shillings courtesy of Chase Bank. The winning students each get a laptop and modem courtesy of Safaricom, a gift hamper from Hako, and a gift hamper from mimi.co.ke. And together they all win the title, The Great Debaters. May the best school win!